Welcome to Just Asia, AHRC TV's weekly human rights program. These are the headlines. Sri Lankan president calls for death penalty to resume within months for drug offenders. Burmese army shells village and blocks food supplies in Rakhine state. Indonesia's presidential candidates silent on human rights. Philippines has high number of extrajudicial killing of human rights defenders. Northeast India rejoices as controversial citizenship bill lapsed. Pakistan's Asia Bibi still not allowed to leave country. Welcome to AHRC TV's Just Asia. I'm Alexandra. This week, Just Asia begins with Sri Lanka, where President Maithripala Sirisena told Parliament last week that he was ready to bring back the death penalty for drug offenders within 1 or 2 months. The last hanging in Sri Lanka took place in 1976, since when there has been a moratorium on capital punishment. Criminals given death sentences for murder, rape, and drug-related crimes in the country have since had their punishment commuted to life imprisonment. President Sirisena visited the Philippines in January and was inspired by the ruthless tactics used there to control drugs and crime. He praised the decisive action of President Rodrigo Dutertes, who came to power on promises to end illegal drugs and do away with criminals. The Philippines has offered anti-narcotic help to Sri Lanka. Sirisena said he hopes to carry out the first hanging within a month or two, and appealed to human rights organizations not to object to the move. Next, Burma's Rakhine state is seeing yet another military crackdown, with soldiers shelling villages, blocking food supplies, and detaining civilians. The recent crackdowns occurred after an armed ethnic Rakhine group, the Rakhine army, attacked 4 police posts on January 4th, reportedly killing 13 officers. According to the UN, more than 5,200 people have been displaced by the subsequent fighting. Dozens of families have reportedly fled into neighboring Bangladesh. Most of those displaced in the latest fighting belong to Buddhist ethnic minorities who, unlike the Rakhine, are recognized as Burmese citizens. A woman belonging to the ethnic Mro minority told Amnesty International that security forces had restricted the amount of rice that could be brought into her village, worsening an existing shortage of supplies. According to Amnesty, the same army units implicated in the atrocities against the Rohingya are behind the recent military operations. Moving to Indonesia, neither of the country's 2 presidential candidates are talking human rights in their campaign. The first presidential debate organized by the National Election Commission on January 17th was meant to focus on human rights and law enforcement. Either current President Mr. Joko Widodo, running for his second term, nor Mr. Prabowo Subianto, representing the opposition, explained how they would address the many gross violations of human rights cases pending from the Suharto regime until the present. Moreover, President Widodo was reluctant to raise the case of enforced disappearances against student activists of 1997 to 1998, in which Prabowo Subianto, as a former commander of Special Armed Forces, was allegedly involved. President Widodo also did not address the stagnant investigation processes of the past human rights abuses under his administration. The situation in Papua and West Papua was not raised by either candidate. Victims and family members of past human rights abuses, as well as human rights organizations, criticized the debate widely. During the Black Thursday demonstration in front of the palace, victims along with human rights groups called for the media and the public to speak up about the settlement of human rights cases and ending impunity for offenders of rights abuses. In the Philippines, the January 30th murder of peace activist Randy Malayo is the latest attack on human rights defender in the country. Malaya worked with peasant groups in Cagayan Valley, pushing for the welfare of farmers and fisherfolk, and fighting against militarization in remote areas. Many other rights defenders fighting for similar causes have also come under threat. In fact, according to data from human rights group Karapatan, there have been at least 134 defenders killed under the Duterte administration since July 12, 2016. Most of them were farmers and land rights activists from the provinces of Bukidnon, Compostela Valley, Negros Oriental, and Negros Occidental. These provinces have long had conflicts over land. The majority of the killings took place in Mindanao, with 86 dead. The Philippines is second to Colombia and the highest outside the Americas in the killings of human rights defenders. Next, in India, there is jubilation in the country's northeast region due to the lapse of the contentious Citizenship Amendment Bill. The last meeting of the upper house of Indian Parliament concluded without passing the Citizenship Bill, leaving it to lapse on June 3rd, when the term of the current lower house of Parliament ends. India's northeast has been rocked with protests over the past few months due to the inherently flawed bill that proposed citizenship rights for persecuted minorities from the neighboring countries of Afghanistan, Bangladesh, and Pakistan. The bill floated many articles of the Indian Constitution, including Article 15, prohibiting discrimination solely on the basis of religion. Inexplicably, the minority communities named in the bill were Hindus, Sikhs, Jains, Parsis, and Christians, excluding Jews, Ahmadiyas, and Shias. Communities in India's northeastern state see the bill as potentially capable of changing the demography of the region. They are worried about foreigners displacing indigenous persons in the region. It is hoped that the Indian government does not push the bill through backdoor routes, but begins a comprehensive dialogue with all stakeholders. In Pakistan, Asia Bibi continues to remain in hiding after the country's top court dismissed all petition against her on January 29th and upheld her acquittal from blasphemy charges. Asia's close friend and rights campaigner said she has been moved to a new secure area in Karachi. Aman Ullah added that she and her husband are locked in a single room in a house where the door opens only at food times. Asia has been offered asylum by Canada, where her two daughters already are. Aman Ullah has been liaising with diplomats who were told Bibi's departure would only come in the medium term. Aman Ullah was forced to flee Pakistan last week after receiving threats from extremists. He spoke to Asia over the phone, who said her security detail refused to tell her why she cannot leave. Publicly, Pakistani authorities insist that Bibi is free both inside Pakistan and to leave it. That is all for this episode of Just Asia. For more on this and other issues, please visit www.humanrights.asia or www.alrc.asia/justasia. Thank you for watching and see you next week.